Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is, of course, Cameron. It is your latest Everton news live. We're going to sit down today and talk about the latest news surrounding Everton Football Club. We're going to talk about Dominic Calvert-Lewin and another unfortunate injury setback for Everton. I do apologise about that noise. That was my iMac in the background sending me messages. I forgot to put it on Do Not Disturb. I apologise. But we are going to talk about Dominic Calvert-Lewin's injury setback today. We sat down a couple of days ago and spoke about Abdoulaye Doucouré's injury and just how bad of luck that Everton get and just how unlucky Everton Football Club seem to be. Fast forward 24 hours later and we find out that Dominic Calvert-Lewin has had a problem with his rehabilitation and is set to be out for a number of weeks, even after being out for 4, 5, 6 weeks, something like that already. We are going to talk about a positive injury topic today, and that is that Richarlison has returned to full training with the Everton squad. The club put pictures of him on social media today, training, scoring goals, looking absolutely boss in the new training gear. So that is a big plus point. I suppose I've had a lot of negative injury news over the last 48, 72 hours or so. So it's about time we got a bit of positive news. We are going to talk about Bramley-Moore Dock in today's live stream as well. There's been a positive update regarding Bramley-Moore Dock, and there's a couple of transfer sort of rumours and topics that I thought we'd sit down and have a little bit of a discussion about as well. But I hope you all are doing really well. If you're watching live with us, don't forget to get your thoughts in the live comments so we can get involved with as many of them as we possibly can. If you're watching the YouTube video, drop your thoughts down below and we'll get straight into them as well. Leave a like if you're enjoying, share the stream, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and let's get straight in to the first topic of today. So as I said, just as we started, unfortunately, Dominic Calvert-Lewin has suffered an injury setback. This is just the news that we didn't want, really, was it? I mean, we sat down here last week and spoke about both Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison and whether or not they'd be available for the game against West Ham. We found out that they were not to be available, but I suppose the hope was that, right, okay, they're not available to, for the West Ham game, but surely they'll both be available for the game against Watford next week. Dominic Calvert-Lewin obviously has spent more time out than Richarlison. Dom has been out since the 2-0 win against Brighton earlier on in the season. We know prior to that he was playing with a thigh injury and a broken toe. Richarlison obviously missing every game from Burnley onwards. So I suppose the hope was that Dominic Calvert-Lewin would be back before Richarlison, or certainly Dominic Calvert-Lewin would be back to fitness around the same time as Richarlison. We heard, a few weeks ago before the game against Manchester United that both Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Seamus Coleman were back on the pitch. We're doing individual training and doing little bits and bobs. So I suppose the sort of hope was, right, okay, within the next couple of weeks or so, we'll see Dom in an Everton shirt again. But unfortunately, we have had a sad update from the football club. Everton have said that Dominic Calvert-Lewin has suffered a setback in his rehabilitation from a quadriceps injury and will remain out for a number of weeks. The Everton striker has not played since the Blues Premier League clash at Brighton and Hove Albion on the 28th of August when he scored from the penalty spot. Calvert-Lewin will continue to receive specialist treatment, and an update on the England international's fitness will be provided in due course. So obviously, massively devastating news there for all of us to read and for all of us to hear, especially given it come not even 24 hours after the news regarding Abdoulaye Doucouré's injury. Dom is obviously, an absolutely wonderful footballer, an absolutely fantastic footballer, and a striker that, grew massively last season in regards to his goal tally, his involvement, his overall play. He was a much better player last season than he was the season before, and that's something that Dominic Calvert-Lewin has done frequently throughout his time at Everton, is constantly improved year in, year out, and we were all looking forward to seeing him do that again this season, but unfortunately the start of it hasn't been the most ideal for Dom whatsoever. We knew he was coming into the season off the back of an injury. We knew he'd broken his toe in pre-season, or just surrounding the time that pre-season was going on. He'd also picked up a thigh injury, and he did play the opening 2-3 games of the season with that broken toe and with that thigh injury. And, look, it's easy enough to say in hindsight that he shouldn't have played, he should have been rested, he should have been taken care of. But at the time, we didn't have Solomon Rondon. Moise Kean very clearly wasn't interested because he wanted to leave the football club. Richarlison was in the team team as well. So it was difficult to take Dominic Calvert-Lewin out the team when we didn't really have anybody else to go in and replace him. He scored but 3 goals so far this season, I believe. A couple of penalties, obviously doing that with his broken toe as well. So it was bound to come a point where Dom needed to come out and have that rest and have that rehabilitation. And I've seen a couple of people on Twitter, more noticeably journalists on Twitter over the last 24 hours or so, almost blaming the club for Dominic Calvert-Lewin's setback in his rehabilitation, and almost saying, well, if the club wouldn't have paid him while he had a broken toe and a thigh strain, then he would have been back to fitness by now. But obviously, as the statement from Everton says there, he's got a quadriceps injury, and obviously he's struggling with that and has been for some weeks. But that's not to do with his broken toe that he was struggling with in the opening 2-3 weeks of the season. We knew he had a injury with his thigh, obviously after the game against Brighton, and that was when that was when he obviously he finished his last game of the season so far, and he hasn't played since then. So the injury that he was playing through at the start of the season was a broken toe. That isn't the same injury that's causing him issue now. Now, okay, having a broken toe at the start of the season was never ideal and probably wouldn't have done him good, and maybe that added a little bit more of a strain on his thigh. But, to say, oh, it's the club's fault for playing him when he was injured, he should have been rested, he should have been taken out, would suggest that the injury that he's still out with is the same injury that he had in the first couple of weeks of the season, which it isn't, because that was a broken toe. And B, it would almost appear like we had another option to use. We had somebody else to play. Dom very clearly wanted to play. He was obviously past fit enough to play by the medical team, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to. So again, I don't really agree with that whatsoever, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But look, ultimately, whether you want to blame the club, whether you want to blame, I don't know, Dave from down the road, or whether, no one's really to blame in this situation, unfortunately. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is one of our best players, if not our best player. And, ultimately, I say that, I've said that about Decore, and I said that about Andros Townsend. William said in the comments, Camlad, don't be saying anyone else is our best player, okay? He's certainly one of our best players. Look, he's our number 9. He's our main focal point up front, and I know that Richarlison can step in there and do that job, and hopefully Richarlison will be fit for the weekend to be able to do that. Whether he's fit enough to start is another question, but Dominic Calvert-Lewin is our main focal point. He's the number 9. He's the leader of the strike force. He's the target man up front. He's been absolutely brilliant last season, scoring goals for fun. And does he need to improve various different areas of his game? Of course he does, but he still is, a main sort of focal point in this Everton team, and when he's not available, and when he's out, and when he's injured, of course, that puts Everton at a distinctively weak position, especially when you're having to replace him with a striker who A, is nowhere near as fit as Dom, and B, let's be honest, there's nowhere near as good as Dom either. So we were sort of hoping that Dominic Calvert-Lewin would be making a return at least some point within the next couple of weeks, but as we've heard from the club, he has suffered an injury setback with his rehabilitation and is due to be out for a number of weeks. The club haven't given a date, they haven't given a time limit, and maybe that's because they don't want to, because they don't want to come out and say, yeah, he'll be out for another 3 or 4 weeks, and then he's out for 6 or 7. Let's not forget that when he first picked up that injury and Rafa Benitez first announced that he was unavailable for the game against Burnley, it was stated that he was going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks. Very similar, Richarlison stated that he would be out for 2 to 3 weeks. Dom has now been out for 2 months, something like that, near enough 2 months, and Richarlison has been out for 5-6 weeks himself, something like that. So I would understand if the club don't want to come out and put an amount on it, put a date on it, put a number on it, in case the rehabilitation takes longer than that, because it's clear that when the manager first come out and said, yeah, Dom will be ready again in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we all sat here and went, 2 to 3 weeks, how are we going to cope 2 to 3 weeks without Dominic Calvert-Lewin? We've now gone however many months, a month and a half, 2 months without Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and we're going to have to go, further. So I get that a number of weeks doesn't sound very promising and sounds quite scary and quite sort of, in your face, but that could be anything from 2 to 3 weeks to, 9 to 12 weeks. We don't know. There's not a number on it. I'm not going to sit here and bother guessing. I'm not going to sit here and bother saying, oh, it might be this, it might be that. We simply don't know. And I think the reason the club haven't given it a time frame is because maybe they don't know either. They don't know when he's going to be getting back to full fitness. They don't know when he's going to be ready to play again. But look, it's a massive blow, an absolutely massive blow. It comes as no surprise. Of course it doesn't. It comes as no surprise. Am I surprised that within the same 24-hour period, Abdoulaye Doucouré, who arguably is our most important player in this Rafa Benitez system, has just picked up an injury which is going to see him out for 6 to 7 weeks. And then literally less than a day later, we found out that our striker, who we all thought was going to be ready for the weekend, has suffered a setback and he's going to be out for a number of weeks as well. There's no surprise whatsoever. Absolutely no surprise. As with Abdoulaye Doucouré, obviously we're wishing Dominic Calvert-Lewin the very, very best. Speedy recovery and hopefully he can get back sort of to 100%, or not sort of, but get back to 100% fitness as soon as possible, because this won't be nice for Dom either. Dom will be, sort of itching at him at the ground, trying to get back onto the pitch in a blue shirt again. He's not going to want to sit round and watch the game at home from his television screen, for much longer. So look, all as we can do is hope that the number of weeks isn't a long time, and as I said, for me, hope that Richarlison can return this weekend in some form and be able to play as that number nine as that focal point. I think Solomon Rondon has done all right. Look, quality-wise, he's not great. I've seen a stat this morning, which was quite interesting, and it was that Solomon Rondon is actually third in the most aerial duels won in the Premier League, which is a little bit interesting. And again, I know some people will say, Cam, stop trying to blag yourself that he's good enough. Look, he's not at the level of Dominic Calvert-Lewin and he's not at the level of Richarlison, and that's the level that we need at the moment to win games and to score goals. So hopefully Richie is back, but as I said, massively sad and disappointing news surrounding Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I'm not going to lie, I sort of had a feeling this was coming, to be perfectly honest with you, because, again, obviously when Dom first picked up an injury, we were told it was going to be 2 to 3 weeks. We then went to 2 to 3 weeks and didn't really hear anything more from from the manager regarding Dominic Calvert-Lewin. We then obviously had Richarlison out injured. We had the international break. We didn't really hear much. Then last week before West Ham, the manager come out and said, yeah, Richarlison's closer to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So I sort of had an inkling in my mind that, right, okay, maybe Dom is. It's obviously something has happened since the initial injury against Brighton for this situation to have been. To have gone on longer than what originally was thought, and it is that he has suffered a setback. So, yeah, disappointing news, sad news, but unfortunately we can't do much about it, can we really? We've just got to hope that Dom can sort of get his head down, rest up, recuperate, recover, and, come back as soon as possible at 100% as well. Maybe the club were looking at potentially playing him in the game on Saturday or last week, and a decision was made that he isn't quite ready, he isn't quite there, and if he was to play, then he'd suffer an even further setback. So, but that's all we know so far. As I said, Dominic Calvert-Lewin has suffered a setback in his rehabilitation. He is due to be out for a number of weeks. We haven't been given a date. We haven't been given a time frame. That could mean he's out for 2 weeks. That could mean he's out for 12 weeks. Let's hope that it's more towards the 2 week mark, but ultimately we don't know, and I'm not going to bother sitting here guessing, because that only causes confusion and speculation, and there's no point if we don't know. And I'm sure that if the club knew for definite, they'd come out and say. So yeah, there you go, unfortunate news, and just adds to my point the other day of that Everton have the worst injury luck in the world. I literally couldn't sit there and face a football fan of another club directly in the eyes and have them seriously tell me that there's another football club on this planet that have worse injury luck than Everton. We literally have played without our number 9 for the last 2 months, and we'll be playing without him for the foreseeable future. No one has worse injury luck than Everton. On the topic of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, a really interesting rumour come out yesterday, which made me laugh a little bit. But we'll talk about it anyway, because why not? It's interesting to have a little talk about. The Telegraph reported that Newcastle United are interested in signing Dominic Calvert-Lewin from Everton. Arsenal and a German team are also interested in the forward, while both Man City and Man United have been long-term admirers. What a list of football clubs that is, isn't it? Arsenal, Manchester City, Manchester United, an unnamed German club, which will be who knows, and then Newcastle United interested in Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Look, I personally don't think there's much in this whatsoever, to be perfectly honest with you. I think it's a very easy rumour to make up. What effectively journalists will be doing at the moment is looking at sides that have got players that you may deem could move on to bigger and better things at mid-table football clubs, and Everton at the moment are a mid-table Premier League club. They'll be looking at players like that, probably the likes of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of some examples. Declan Rice at West Ham, maybe even Souček at West Ham, Rafinha at Leeds is probably up there, maybe even some of, Aston Villa's, sort of top players as well. They'll be looking at all of these players, and they'll be just linking Newcastle with every single one of them, because Newcastle have got a load of money, and for some reason the media seem to think that these players would look at Newcastle, who, by the way, might be playing Championship football before they're even allowed to spend a penny, and think, yeah, do you know what, I'll go and play there. Listen, I've seen a couple of people arguing about this on Twitter and sort of going back and forth about why there's a possibility Dominic Calvert-Lewin will go to Newcastle, and then other people arguing as to why he'd never go to Newcastle. If Dominic Calvert-Lewin is to leave Everton, which is very possible, he might leave Everton. We know that. The same with Richarlison in the summer. I think the other clubs that are listed in that article, your Man Cities, your Man Uniteds, I wouldn't even say Arsenal, but more so Arsenal than Newcastle, Dominic Calvert-Lewin will be looking at thinking, right, okay, that's a step up from Everton. Newcastle, in no way, shape or form, in any stretch of the imagination, are a step up from Everton Football Club in any sense. They're nowhere near as big of a football club. Yes, they've got more money, but, I mean, Dom can earn 100, 150 grand at Everton. Yes, he might be able to earn 250, 300 at Newcastle, but they won't be finishing above Everton. It'll take them 5 or 6 years to even challenge for Europe, in my opinion. So I'm not saying Everton are miles better and are going to challenge for Europe, this season or consistently, but we're at a better stage than Newcastle are. And as I said, by the time they're allowed to even spend a penny, could be playing Championship football next season. They've just sacked the manager, and they're linked with the likes of Eddie Howe, who I don't think will save them personally. But there you go. And as I said, Arsenal, I think is a step sideways probably for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but it's more of a step up than Newcastle. So I don't really believe this whatsoever. Don't get me wrong, I believe the rumour in the sense of that Newcastle are interested in Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Why wouldn't he be? Why wouldn't Newcastle look at a player like Dominic Calvert-Lewin and think, well, he's at a mid-table Premier League club, he's banging goals in, he's got potential, he's still only young, he's not going to have that, well, I'm winning trophies here, so, why would they leave? So there's a potential that he could move on. Why wouldn't he think like that? And they're going to go for ambitious moves because they've got all of this money and they want to prove to the fans that they're serious and they want to challenge for this and they want to challenge for that and all this nonsense. But I just don't, maybe I'm wrong, and I've known to be wrong before on these types of things, and I've said things on this channel that have been vastly wrong before, but I just don't see a world where Dominic Calvert-Lewin looks at Newcastle over Everton and thinks, yeah, do you know what, that's more of an ambitious football club than this, or that's a football club that are going places maybe in 3, 4, 5 years time, depending on their recruitment and their managerial choice and what happens, maybe, potentially, but, for all the money that Newcastle have got over Everton, I think Everton are in a much better situation in every other sense of football than Newcastle are, and I don't see why Dominic Calvert-Lewin would leave to go to Newcastle. Dominic Calvert-Lewin leaving this summer, very, very possible, very possible. And those other teams listed in that article, if Man City come knocking, would I be able to sit here and confidently say Dom stays at Everton? No. If Man United come knocking, very same thing. Even if Arsenal come knocking, even though I think Arsenal is a sidestep at the moment, Arsenal as a football club are a gigantic football club. So, the trophies they've won, the league titles, all of this sort of nonsense. So even them I'd look at and go, I don't think he'd go, but there's an attraction there. I don't see any attraction with Newcastle. I really, really don't. Other than the fact they've got loads of dough, which, by the way, Everton have got loads of dough. We're just not allowed to spend it. I don't see the attraction. So for me, look, I thought it was a rumour worth talking about because it was in the news the other day, and I thought, you know what, we'll sit down and we'll mention it. Personally, I don't believe it. I believe Newcastle probably are interested in Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but I don't see Dominic Calvert-Lewin going to Newcastle, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I just don't. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. It only takes a second, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. That would mean an absolutely great deal to me. If you're watching live, get your thoughts in the live comments, and we'll get involved with as many of them as we possibly can very shortly. If you're watching a YouTube video, leave your comments down below and we'll get involved with them as well. On the topic of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, The Liverpool Echo did release an article just before Everton put out their statement regarding Dom's injury. The Liverpool Echo released an article saying that Everton have yet to put a timescale on Dominic Calvert-Lewin's return. It is believed the striker may have suffered complications during his rehab. There is some fears that he could be sidelined for up to 12 weeks, but there is hope it won't last that long. So as I said, the reason why Everton have said a number of weeks and haven't stated a number is because some people at the club might fear he could be out for 12 weeks. There's hope that it won't take that long. It just could take that long. So we don't know. We don't know. I wouldn't take that number of 12 weeks as a solid, right, he's out for 12 weeks. Because, you know, he could recover a lot quicker than that, and we could see him within the next 3-4 weeks. But it's interesting that, you know, the Echo have reported that there's some people at the football club that fear he could be out for that amount of time, but the hope is that he'll be back before then. So that's the only sort of number we've been given in any sense of the imagination, and that hasn't come directly from the football club. Obviously, that's come from the Liverpool Echo. Anyway, let's get into the live comments before we move on. I want to talk about Richarlison and his return to training. I want to talk about Yerry Mina as well, because Yerry Mina's been doing something off the football pitch that makes me immensely proud for him to be an Everton player, and makes me sit back and think, why hasn't he been given a new contract yet? And I'm also going to talk about Bramley-Moore Doc as well. But let's get into the live comments before we do that. Say hello to everybody. Wormy says, hi everybody. Hi Wormy. Hope you're doing well, my mate. Philip says, Wormy sir. Jason says, hi Cam. Wormy, everybody, hi Philip is right. Wormy says, Cam, don't be saying anyone else is our best player. Is right. Jason says, if Rondon doesn't score against Watford, he never will. Well, look, depending on the fitness of Richarlison, who knows whether Rondon will start against Watford? I don't know. Look, as I said, we're gonna talk about Richarlison in a little bit, so we'll talk about that then. Whammy says, less it is Delph. Delph is our best player. Or whatever will we do without Delph? Well, we have had the pictures today from Everton's training sessions. We know that Tyler Onyango is training with the first team, as is Fabian Delph and Andre Gomez. They've returned from injury to join the training. Whether or not they'll be fit on Saturday is a different question. But they've returned to training. And look, whatever you think of Fabian Delph and Andre Gomez, and whether you think they're good enough, and whether you think that they should be at the football club or they should be in the matchday squad, whatever, at this point in time, with our current injury crisis, any player returning from injury is a welcomed return, in my opinion. I'm not saying start Fabian Delph at the weekend. I'm not saying start Andre Gomez. But if players are returning from injury and they're first team players, then they're more than welcome, because we simply aren't in a position at the moment to go, well, yeah, he's returning, but he's shite, so I don't want him anywhere near the team. You know, I'm not saying start them, but I'm sure they'll fill a spot on the bench. Philip says he's a real grifter. Grafter, do you mean that round on? Jason says maybe QPR done us a favour, so we get a clear week next week. Well, yeah, they massively have done us a favour, really, haven't they? Well, they haven't, because we wanted to stay in the cup, but you get what I mean. Well, Philip says we play worse after the break. Yeah. Jose says, greetings from South America. Come on, you Blues. It's right, Jose. Thank you very much, my friend. Really appreciate that. William says, I agree, Cam, that the club isn't responsible for injuries, but they're responsible for being woefully unprepared for them, which, considering our track record, is disappointing. I'd agree. I would agree. Absolutely, mate. William says, I reckon the Corey will be out for 8 weeks. Potentially. Philip says, what happens if Dom is worse than we think? We have no one at all to fill his boots. Well, I suppose the hope at this current moment is that Richarlison, you know, once he returns to full fitness, will be in. I've got no doubt that once Richarlison is fully fit, while Dominic Calvert-Lewin is out, it'll be Andros Townsend on the right, Damari Gray on the left, with Richarlison as the striker. I've got no doubt. I think you might see Rondon starting the odd game or coming on to replace Richarlison to give him a bit of a rest, but I think the main front three will be Townsend, Gray and Richarlison, and as it should be as well, because Richarlison has proven before he can play as a centre forward, and he offers us much more than Solomon Rondon does. And he's got to start. Richarlison has to start 100% if he's fit. Has to start. So he's either starting up front or on the left. And would I rather have Rondon or Gray in the team? I'd rather have Gray in the team. So there you go. Stephen says, we need to play Alan Davis and one more in midfield with Townsend, Gray on the wings and Richarlison up front. Fingers crossed, no more injuries. Let's hope so, mate. We really, really can't do with any more injuries. I've literally done 2 live streams this week talking about injuries. You'd think that nothing else at the football club goes on. Sol says they all overuse injuries, partly inevitable with the lack of squad depth we have. Yeah. Fair enough. Whammy says Rondon can fill his boots, but he can't run anywhere in them. Stephen says get to January, Tyne Ivan Toney looks a top player. I agree, but I don't think Brentford would sell in January, to be perfectly honest with you. I just couldn't see that. Whammy says, no chance, Stephen. Kieran rants, what's happening, Kieran? He says, hello, Cam, how are you? I'm not too bad, my mate. I'm not too bad. Hope you're doing well yourself. Philip says, as for Rondon, he's not very good, but I'll support him while he has an Everton shirt on his back. Sure, Will Philly is a big lad. Certainly he's a big guy, says Phil. Philip says, Bayern, regarding the club, about Dom. Sol says, unknown German club, walks out the room. There you go, who knows, maybe it was Bayern, maybe it was Dortmund. Listen, if it's anything like the rumours at the moment and Newcastle are after them, maybe it was Hertha Berlin or somebody like that, I don't know. No disrespect to Hertha Berlin, obviously, boss club, but you know what I'm saying. Whammy says, maybe if you're mates with him, though, he will give you a ride down Blackpool. Jason says, still not sure why anyone would want to go to Newcastle at the moment. Listen, as I said, before they can even spend a penny, I know they'll get January, but before they'll be able to invest seriously in the club in the summer, they could be in the Championship. Stephen says, I'd sell Don for 150, not unless we've short changed on our top players in the past. Interesting. Haha, Arsenal, more chance he goes to Newcastle than Arsenal, says Whammy. And Philip says, Stevie, I agree, slap an eye water and tag on him. And Peter says, Arsenal, who are they? Accrington Stanley of the South. Interesting. No respect for Arsenal. EFC Graphic says he has got a buyout clause in his contract. Has he got a buyout clause in his contract? Dom, I don't think he has, mate. I don't think he has. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. It only takes a second, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, share the stream. We are getting close to 5,000 subscribers, nearly on 4,950 now, so 50 to go, the last push. If you could subscribe if you're new, that would be absolutely fantastic, and I would really appreciate it. And if you are new and watching the live stream and enjoying it, please hit the like. 40 people watching, 8 likes. If you could get the likes up, that would be absolutely fantastic. Anyway, let's have a little talk about Yerry Mina, because why not? He's absolutely boss, and I want to talk about him. It was announced earlier this week that the Yerry Mina Foundation led an initiative to donate a novel insecticide that will protect 5,000 homes in Guashini from diseases caused by mosquito bites. How amazing is that? As I said before, Yerry Mina showing that he's not just an absolutely unbelievable man on the football pitch, but he is also an absolutely unbelievable man off the football pitch as well. He's been known in the past to do a lot for charity, Yerry Mina, especially over in his home country of Colombia, of course, which is fantastic. And again, you know, he's helping, you know, those out that you know, are less fortunate and need it. As I said, you know, a novel insecticide that'll protect 5,000 homes from diseases caused by mosquito bites is massive. Mosquito bites can be a potential killer. They you know, mosquitoes carry all sorts of diseases from malaria to various other things. So, you know, again, effectively, Yerry Mina's helping save lives there, and it just shows what an amazing human being he is. Not just an amazing footballer, which he is. He's an absolutely fantastic footballer, but it shows what an amazing human being he is as well, which is obviously great to see. And if anybody from Everton's watching, I doubt anybody from Everton will be watching, but if anybody from Everton is watching, give that fella a new contract. Just give him a new contract now. He's still only young. Yes, he has problems with injuries. Yes, he has problems with his fitness and all of that sort of stuff, but he's our best defender. He's our best centre-half, for me, by quite a stretch. He's a dead sound fella. He's a boss personality. He's a snide on the pitch, which is exactly what we need. He's still only relatively young, and he's absolutely boss, and he's a dead nice fella. Give him a new contract. We had a conversation in the summer about Yerry Mina and whether or not, you know, he should be given a new contract and whether or not he will be given a new contract. I just think Everton have got to give him that new contract now. I do. I think he's shown over the recent weeks why he's so important to this Everton team. In various different ways, not just his ability as a defender, but as I said, his mentality, his personality on the pitch, his ability to get in the defender to the attacker's ear and wind the player up. He's absolutely boss. So for me, I'd be giving Yerry Mina a new contract tomorrow, but obviously somebody at Everton, you know, maybe disagrees because it hasn't been done. But anyway, there you go. Everton did provide us an update on Bramley-Moore dock over the last couple of days, and that is that work has begun on the foundations for the north and south stands of Everton's new stadium at Bramley-Moore dock. The process is expected to continue until the summer of 2022. So really positive news there. on Bramley-Moore dock. I like these updates. I know some people have a little bit of a thing of, oh, we only ever really announce updates when something goes wrong or when there's an injury or whatever on the stadium. And I get, why people might seem a little bit frustrated about that, but I love hearing the updates on the stadium. I really, really do, because, ultimately what it does is it effectively, it keeps us up to date, it keeps us involved, it keeps us, knowing what the latest news is regarding the stadium. And, Everton have been guilty in the past of not keeping us updated and not communicating with us, and still are guilty of that in other departments. The recruitment department massively are guilty of not updating us on what's going on or what the plan is or where the club's going in the future. So I really, really like when the club come out personally and give us updates on the stadium, what's going on, what's happening, what's being built, what's, where we're up to with it, the drone footage, the website. Obviously, I just think it's brilliant. And again, I get that some people are the only throw an update out there when something bad goes on, but they don't. They put an update out there when there's an update to be had, whether something bad's gone on around that or whether something great's gone on around that. They put an update out when there's an update to be had, and there was an update to be had this week, and I really, really enjoyed reading it and watching the video. And obviously, I think it's progress, it's massive progress, and it shows that, again, if we needed any further indication that this stadium is happening, again, we've had another indication of that this week. We all know it's happening anyway. There might be a couple of, Reds out there that still seem to think that it's imaginary, but we all know it's happening. We all know it's getting built. We all know that we'll be there in 4 or 5 years sitting in that new stadium. So it's great to see and hear an update on that as well. Richarlison has returned to full training. Yes, I can't tell you how happy I was when I saw those images released this afternoon, and I'm not even exaggerating. I can't tell you how happy I was when I saw those images, and that's not because of, Solomon Rondon or his performances or this, that and the other. It's just because of how important Richarlison is to Everton Football Club, how important Richarlison as a player is to Everton. He is vital. He is absolutely vital, especially in the absence of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because he can play as that centre forward, he can play as that number 9, he can play as that striker. We've missed him no end since he picked up an injury against Burnley. We've missed his creativity, we've missed his goals, we've missed his work rate, we've missed his effort, we've missed his passion, we've missed his desire, and overall, ultimately, look, we've missed his quality. Richarlison, above all, is a really, really good footballer. All of the other things, the desire and the passion and the want to play for the shirt and the fact that he loves the football club, that's all an added bonus. His quality is ultimately why he makes the team every week. His quality is ultimately why, we're all sitting here absolutely made up that he's back in the team. If he just give it 110% and he was a bit shit, we'd go, get in, yeah, he's back, that's good, but is he really going to make a difference? Whereas we know Richarlison will make a difference. Now, obviously, we don't know whether or not he'll be fit to start on Saturday. I would assume that he will be in the squad of some form, given he has returned to full training, and obviously we've got a massive injury crisis at the moment, so we've not really got many players to fill out the bench. We will hear from Rafa Benitez tomorrow in his pre-game press conference ahead of the game against Watford on Saturday, and we will be live tomorrow afternoon with the game preview to that game as well. So we'll know an awful lot more information tomorrow on whether or not Richarlison is going to be fit to start. As I said, I would guess at the minute that he wouldn't be, purely because of the fact that he's only just returned to full training after being out for a number of weeks with a problem with his knee. So my first assumption, my overall assumption, is that he'd still probably need another week, maybe week or two of full training before he's ready to start a game of football. However, with Richarlison, he literally come back from the Olympics and 4 days later was starting the first game of the season for Everton. So it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if he's in the starting 11 on Saturday. And I obviously would welcome that massively. As long as he's fully fit, I don't want him in the starting 11 if he's going to pull up after 20 minutes, half an hour with a reoccurring problem or with a reoccurring injury. As long as he's fully fit, then obviously he needs to be in that starting 11 because he can play up front and he has obviously got the quality to provide us with the goals and the chances that we desperately need at the moment. But if he doesn't start, then I think we can be safe in saying that at least he'll be on the bench and he'll form part of a squad, and hopefully he'll come on and get some game time and build his fitness up that way as well. But ultimately, look, it's massive news, absolutely massive news regarding Richarlison. Fantastic to see him back in full training, fantastic to see him in the Everton gear again, and hopefully, like I said, we'll see him on Saturday. As I said, if it's not starting hopefully it's coming off the bench making an impact. Hopefully we don't need him to come off the bench and make an impact, but judging by the game last Sunday, we probably will if he doesn't start. So listen, absolutely brilliant to see him back, and just in time as well. You know, we had the news about Abdoulaye Doucouré on Tuesday, was it? That was obviously massively disappointing for all of us. We had the news about Dominic Calvert-Lewin yesterday. That was massively disappointing, and I think a lot of us were sort of looking at this game on Saturday thinking we should be beating this Watford team because they're not very good. Again, no disrespect, but they're not very good. But we've got Dom out, we've got Doucouré out. Rondon isn't particularly at his best at the moment. You know, we look poor last weekend. So, you know, the return of Richarlison is a massive plus point and is a massive bonus going into the game on Saturday. As I said, we will hear from Rafa Benitez tomorrow with his pre-game press conference. I'm sure we'll hear a lot more on Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot more on Richarlison and whether or not he'll be fit to start or be fit in some form to be involved for the game. So that is obviously massively positive news as well. And Tyler Onyango has also been training with the Everton first team today. Now this is really interesting for a couple of reasons. One of them is obviously given he returned earlier in the week for Everton's under-23s. They beat Leeds and Tyler Onyango returned in that game. As I said, Tyler Onyango and Luke Butterfield, who is another under-23 player, were training with Everton's first team today. I believe there was a couple of other under-23s as well there. But as I said, the Tyler Onyango situation is very interesting. Firstly, because he returned after his long time out injured earlier on in the week against the Leeds under-23s in Everton's under-23 victory. And secondly, because he, for me, is the closest player at the football club to Abdoulaye Doucouré in the sense of the type of player he is, the way he plays, his physicality, his height, his ability in the middle of the park. I'm not saying he's as good as Abdoulaye Doucouré. I'm not saying he's, you know, he needs to come in and start on the weekend. But I think when you look at the rest of our midfielders at the football club and you try and find a like-for-like replacement for Abdoulaye Doucouré, I think Tyler Onyango, even though he's still very inexperienced, even though he's still very young, even though he hasn't played, I don't think he's played a minute of Premier League football, he's played first team football, but not in the Premier League, I still think he is the most like-for-like replacement we have for Abdoulaye Doucouré. So to see him training with the first team isn't a surprise, because he was training with the first team under Carlo Ancelotti for the last however many weeks of the Premier League season before he picked up that injury. So it's no surprise that he's straight back into training with the first team now. But I think this needs to be Tyler Onyango's breakthrough now to become a first team player. I fully expect him to be on the bench at the very least on Saturday. I don't know whether I expect him to start. I think Rafa Benitez might go with a more conservative approach of Tom Davies and maybe Andre Gomez, or either or. But the hope is that Onyango's on the bench and can come on the pitch at some point, if not on Saturday, maybe next week, and, you know, obviously make an impact and show the manager, look, you know, I am, you know, whilst Abdoulaye Doucouré's out, I can step in and fill those boots. Because, yes, he's still very inexperienced. Yes, he's still got a lot to learn. But in terms of his height, his physicality, his, you know, his ability in the middle of the park, he does remind me an awful lot of Abdoulaye Doucouré. Certainly for the under-23s anyway. Obviously, it's a massive step up from the under-23s. Look, Tom Davies used to play under-23 football like it was nothing. He used to play with his eyes closed. John Joe Kenny was bossing the under-23s. It is an absolutely monumental step up. But I just look at Tyler Onyango and think he looks like he's got the physicality and the upper body strength to be able to deal with the Premier League. And look, hopefully he gets his chance. So as I said, that is really interesting that Tyler Onyango is training with the first team ahead of the game on Saturday against Watford. I expect him to be a part of the squad. Don't expect him to start, but I expect him to be a part of the squad. And hopefully if he gets an opportunity, he can show the manager why he should be, you know, a first teamer, never mind you know, just somebody who, just a, you know, a young player who changed with the squad. So, you know, very interesting. Anyway, let's get back in the live comments before we finish up the stream. I do want to talk about one more transfer rumour before we finish up, but we'll get in the live comments before we do that. Where are we? I'll be worried if City starts sniffing, says Wormy. Yeah, me too. Philip says money talks though. Yeah, but again, Dom can be earning an awful lot of money at Everton. It's not like he'd be earning £3.50 at Everton and 700 grand at Newcastle. He'll still be earning a lot of money at Everton. And is money everything. I don't think it is to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Maybe it is to some players, but I don't think it is to Dominic Calvert. Well, it definitely is to some players, but I don't think it is to Dom. Jose says, hey guys, how can I help the club as a scouter? I don't know, mate. You'd have to get in touch with the club. Wayne says, loads of though, don't they have 50 million to spend? I think they've got a lot to spend, but obviously FFP comes into play and various different things like that. So yeah, I don't know exactly the situation at Newcastle, and if I'm being honest. Thomas says, do you think Richie will start? I don't know, is the honest answer. I don't know. I'd like to hope so if he's 100% fit, but I'm sure we'll hear from the manager tomorrow in his pre-game press conference, and we'll have an update on whether or not he is ready to start. EFC Graphic says, who would you play alongside Alan? I don't know, to be very honest with you, because I think that as I said in the video on Wednesday about Abdoulaye Doucouré, personally, I think that the manager's going to have to change the system. I think he's going to have to change the style. I think he's going to have to change the way in which we play, because other than Tyler Onyango, who I don't think will start, I don't think we have anybody that's like for like to Abdoulaye Doucouré. So I don't think you can just shoehorn a Tom Davies in there or shoehorn an Andre Gomez in there and say, right, go and do Abdoulaye Doucouré's job, because they won't be able to do it. But if I had to just pick a name, I'd probably say Tom Davies. Rondon will start, says Wormy. But yeah, probably. EFC Graphics says Eli Campbell also with the first team today. Yeah, Elijah Campbell also training with the first team. Looks really, really good in the under-23s. A lot of potential. Big physical player. There's a picture on Twitter of him. Looks really, really, really strong. Wormy says, but what the hell has happened to Gabaman? Listen, Gabaman could start in place of Abdoulaye Doucouré. Who knows? EFC Graphics says maybe Richie and Rondon. We haven't really seen Rondon with someone else up top. Yeah, you're right. William says, I guess it'll be Tom and Alan, and hopefully he drops a Wobie. Again, I'm not big on the Tom Davies and Alan midfield. I think they're both good footballers, but I think they're both too similar. There's not enough energy in there. There's not enough athleticism in there for me. There's not enough pace in there either. Hernandez says, after this wave of injuries, hopefully new fitness coach can prevent future ones. Yeah, hopefully Everton obviously have employed a new fitness coach, so hopefully. I'm good, lad, thanks for asking, says Kieran. Is right, my mate. He also says, hey, FC Graphic. Louis says, alright, Cam, lad. Right, my mate. Give him a like, lad, says Philip. Thank you very much. If you could like the scene, that'd be absolutely brilliant. Anyone seen the midfield kid we're meant to be looking at? Belgium. Charles Cantilla or something. I haven't, to be honest. Scenes if Newcastle go down, says Alex. EFC Graphics says 5-year deal for me. Yeah. I'd talking about Yerry Mina. Give him a 20-year deal. No, money messing. No, I'd say, to be sensible, I'd probably say another 2-3 years, in my opinion. I'm good. How about users EFC Graphic? Philip says the lad on YouTube does great drone stuff on the progress. I forgot his name. Yeah, Luke does the School of Science channel. He does the obviously Bramley-Moore project, which is really, really interesting. And it's good that the club are keeping up with that as well and keeping us updated on Bramley-Moore. Hernandez says, have Brands give us an update on the transfer strategy? No, he hasn't. Louis says the Ketelere is a boss player. I haven't seen much of him whatsoever. I can't lie, I haven't seen much of him at all. EFC Graphics says Athletic saying Dukes is out for 5 to 6 weeks. Yeah, well, Fabrizio Romano said 6 to 7, and Abdoulaye Doucouré did reply to that tweet with a couple of emojis, which would maybe suggest that is the truth. But I would say anywhere between maybe 5 to 7, 8 weeks, something like that. I'd probably go with. Wayne says, is he as good as Longstaff though? Louis is the question. Georgie says, Julian Alvarez from Argentina, keep the eyes on him. Thank you, is right, we will do. Recovery is nowhere for Richie, wants to play every minute of every game. You're right, says EFC Graphic. Louis says, no, Wayne, for me, the bang average Longstaff brothers are far better. Yerry Mina bracing coming, says EFC Graphic. Let's hope so. He loves a goal against Watford, to be fair. Louis says, now Long looks like a cracking player as well. Interesting. EFC Graphics says, I've said all season, Alan going under the radar because Doucouré's getting all the numbers. This is the time to show us how good he really is and actually see it. Yeah, Yeah, I think Haaland's had a great start to the season. I think Haaland's had an absolutely fantastic start to the season, to be honest with you. But I think having somebody like a Decore next to him helps him massively because of the mobility of Decore. Or Gabaman, don't forget Gabaman says with me. Anyway, let's get into the last transfer rumour before we finish up the live stream. If you're enjoying, as I said, please hit that like button. Get your comments in the live comments before we finish up to get involved with the discussion. If you're watching the YouTube video, leave your comments down below. The last transfer rumour is coming from Footy Insider 247 on Twitter, so take it with an absolute gallon of salt. And they have said that Everton are interested in Manchester United's Jesse Lingard. The Blues have set their sights on a deal in January, and Rafa Benitez is a big admirer of him. As I said, take that with an absolutely ginormous pinch of salt. 12 months ago, maybe even longer ago, I would have said, absolutely not. 12 months ago, yeah, I would have said absolutely not to Jesse Lingard. I just didn't think he was good enough. I thought if he's not good enough for Man United, he's not good enough for Everton. Then obviously he had that loan spell at West Ham and looked absolutely fantastic for the time that he was there. They didn't sign him in the summer, of course. They opted to sign Nikola Vlasic instead, probably because Manchester United wanted too much money. And if he becomes available in January at a decent price, or maybe even on loan like West Ham managed to, then I wouldn't be massively opposed to it. To be honest with you, I think he's certainly got quality. He's shown that already this season for United, coming on with 5-10 minutes to go with the task of changing a game or winning a game, and he's ended up going to do it. He isn't at the best age, but he's still at a good age. And yeah, as I said, look, it all depends on the money, I suppose. If Man United are wanting 50 million for him, then not a chance. But if Man United are only wanting 50 million for him, then maybe, or they're wanting on loan, then maybe. But look, Man United don't like to do business with Everton. They don't. They see Everton as a direct threat, and they don't like to do business with Everton. So I've got no confidence that this has got anything in it whatsoever. But there you go. Let us know your thoughts on that one in the comments as well. Saying his name will get him injured, says EFC graphic, as James still has injured, says Philip. Gabaman time to justify the salary, says Jose. Yeah, there you go. Frank Kessie, I will knee slide in the Aldi. Anything on Richie's contract, says Thomas? No, not yet. Nothing to discuss on that one. Peter says, think we need a vet to assist the physios. Damien says, alright, Cam, mate, sorry, only getting on. Hope you're well. Is right, my mate, no problem at all. Thank you very much. I'm not doing too bad. Hope you're doing well yourself. Alone with an option to buy, says Jason. Yeah, it depends. Yeah, I'd take that. And Lingard for 20 million would be a decent signing. Yeah, I'd take that as well. But as I said, I just don't see Manchester United doing business with Everton, because they haven't for the last couple of years for players that had no part in their squad. So why would they for a player like Jesse Lingard, who mightn't start but has obviously got a place in their squad? I just don't see it personally, but we'll wait and see. Anyway, look, that is going to do it for this live stream. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. It only takes a second. A massive thank you to everybody for getting involved in the live comments. I really, really do appreciate it. And if you're watching the YouTube video, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. As I said, we'll be back tomorrow with the game preview ahead of Everton's Premier League fixture against Watford on Saturday. So don't forget to join us for that one. Hit that big subscribe button if you're new to keep up to date with all of the latest Everton news. Hit a like button if you've enjoyed it as well. If you're watching this YouTube video, leave your thoughts in the comments and we'll get involved with as many of them as we possibly can. But until tomorrow, massive thank you for watching. That's me for the night. EFC Graphics says that Romero deal annoyed me. Third choice goalkeeper wasn't given to us. Exactly. So why would they give Jesse Lingard to us? That's how I think about it. Anyway, Louis says, see you in a bit, Cam. Cheers, my mate. And Wimmy says, no thanks on Lingard. Too old, need a younger prospect and make some money. Not overpaid, okay players. As good as he was at West Ham, he can't get in at Man U. See you guys. Fair enough. Anyway, big thanks for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you soon on The Mighty Blues.